Hello, hi there gorgeous Aquariuses, welcome to my channel. I'm Bella, and if you're watching me for the first time, I'm a psychic. I intuit the messages that I get from spirit. However, if you are new here, I am going to also, as we go through this reading, pull some cards to clarify things that my spirit guides, because that's how I work, are also showing me. And for those of you who know me, yes, I'm back. I've had a bit of a social media break, but I'm really happy to be back, and thank you to everybody for the lovely messages so far. And partly the reason why I've been away is that I've been writing this book, 100 Days of Psychic Exercises, which is in the link just down below, which is to help people to unlock their own extrasensory abilities, because everybody can do what I can do. We all have this psychic gift that we just don't tap into. So if you like this reading, do like, do share, do subscribe. Also comment, I love to hear from you also too. And the links to me and my services if you want a personal reading is just down below. And also this reading will have an extension to it as well if you need further guidance on your love situation, because this is a love specific reading. So shall we jump right into it, because my guides were showing me a scenario that I kind of want to dig into a little bit more, because they've kind of given me, because it's general, there's a couple of scenarios that's going on for Aquariuses when it comes to their romance. And mostly the thing is interference that I get. You've got some interference coming up that may skew your judgment very, very much in the choices that you make when it comes to love. Because in this month, and I understand why, because since September, but mostly in this month, since lots of planets that were retrograde have gone direct, and we don't really have another planet from my recollection until about the 19th of December, when Venus goes retrograde, everything is quite clear now. And we're at the start of new soulmate cycles for the next sort of 10, 12, 14 years. It's kind of happening since September, but definitely in this month. And so I say that to you because basically someone's coming charging towards you. Somebody who previously was quite slow moving, that to the point where you thought it's not going to happen. And also, I want to split it, because for some people, it will be somebody that you know, and for others, it's just a new soulmate that now you're going to be colliding with. Whereas before, because of circumstances, because you needed to heal or find your self-worth or end something, the reason why it was going slow moving is because you had to be free and available, but also energetically at a different level. You needed to vibrationally be different, stronger, healthier, healed, or at least be on that path. And because of that energy in this month, you've got somebody colliding with you, basically. It's coming rushing in all of a sudden. So those are the kind of two scenarios. You've got somebody either coming back in, or you're somebody new's coming in that's colliding with you in a really, really good way. And I have to say, in either one of those scenarios, they do fulfill something that you've been manifesting, something that you've been wishing and hoping for. The relationship, the reconnection, the rekindling that you've been hoping for, that you've been waiting for some of you. Waiting for somebody new, waiting for somebody to come back. You have been, my guides are saying it's been hard because you've been waiting, but also you've been through different scenarios a little bit. Your whole perspective has shifted in terms of how you thought about relationships. Some of you are jaded. Some of you are, when you think individually about, you know, your experience, especially with somebody, it really had to like a flip around in your brain. For some of you, that is also came out as quite negative. Like I said, quite jaded in terms of can't even see the possibility of how that could even get back together because of the problems or the damage, or maybe not being on the right page. Again, going to be different for everybody. But it all flips around. Someone comes charging in or charging back, especially after being slow moving, and they do represent a wish. And that's a good sign straight away. It means that in this connection, are they coming back better? Yes. Do you get what you've been manifesting? Yes. Do you get what you want? Do you get the long-term relationship? Do you get, yes, I can tell you that for now. Where it gets complicated is interference, massively. Because just as this steps in, like within the first week or two of this person step into your life, I get interference. Now, the interference can be one of these sort of scenarios. So this is a new person, and then as soon as you get with this new person, guess what? An ex-person decides they want to try and interfere or come back because they don't want you to be with somebody else, and they've suddenly realised. And for a lot of people where that's happened, it's happening quite a lot this year, because a lot of people are sending an awakening to themselves and their behaviours and connections. But as soon as you get into one, they want to try and come in and mess with your head and question your decision. Or even if you're like, no, I don't want that person back, they just want to be disruptive. They may even tell that person that they shouldn't be with you, tell that person something that's not good about you, to try and split the connection. The other sort of scenario is, again, with the same situation. You may have an ex come back, but actually it's friends and family on either side, but somebody in particular who wants to, again, interfere, sour the water, question things. So they might say, oh, well, you don't want them back because I found out that they were with Bill or Kirsty only last week, or they tried it on with me, or something else that, again, gets in your head and your mind. It could also be, my guides are showing me conformity, religious, cultural type of things. So it could be that somebody is saying you shouldn't do that because they're not the same culture as us. You shouldn't do that because they're not the same colour as us. You shouldn't do that because of their sexuality. There is something that somebody's trying to interfere and get in your head on your side. It's not necessarily on their side. It could also be on their side that their friends and family are trying to interfere, that then is getting in your head where you're thinking, God, do I want to get into this mess? Now, the other scenario, if it I think that applies either way, because even if it was a new person, even with a new person, I still get that somebody may be trying to say, oh, I've heard about them, you shouldn't trust them, or, maybe you've met them online and somebody says, oh, do you think you should, because I saw them on Bumble and I saw them on Tinder and I saw them here and there and everywhere. I just get interference. And then also, what's key about that, my guides are just saying here, that actually it triggers, because you've been healing, and because some of you have had jadedness, and because some of you have lost a connection this year or been single for a long time, it kind of stirs up old demons in you, because it's almost like, well, I'm trusting this and it feels really good and they're ticking all the wishes, but now you're stirring a beast that I thought was asleep in me, that now suddenly you're making me paranoid. And it basically, my guide's saying you need to be careful, because it could slip you into you not wanting to take the connection, or slipping into paranoia, that could lead you then to have difficulties in the beginnings of this connection, because of being influenced or having somebody trigger anxiety, intrusive thoughts or panic in you that you thought was healed. But like with everything that we heal, sometimes it is a sleeping beast that just takes one thing for it to rear its ugly head again. And it's more about not us healing it, but more about how we cope with that trigger, either well and have self-awareness about it and put it back to sleep, like soothe it, or we allow it to turn into a big monster that then makes us run into another direction and makes you then have some sort of avoidant attachment style where you can't get with anybody because you're full of fear. And remember, fear is quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Catching. It's quite, it's infectious. It can grow bigger and bigger. So Spirit is saying you have to be mindful about that. They say that you need to be the judge and jury. You need to be the person that trusts what they're offering you, that you have a say in how the shaping of that connection goes, and that you in particular need to trust your own intuition and your own higher self guidance, and spiritual guidance that you get internally yourself, regardless of what anybody says. I think the most difficult scenario for a lot of you, which is what I'm going to kind of look at, will be if you're going with somebody new and your ex decides to turn up. That one is the one that I think is going to really poke at your mind. For some people that did want their ex back, gave up on it, suddenly somebody lovely and new and fantastic has come in, and then the ex comes forward and messes with that. That could be the scenario that plays out also. I'm going to just get some cards to see if I can clarify. Really, kind of want to look at what's the most likely interference that's going to come up for you. So just bear with me. Oh, one wants to come out. So you've got the Two of Swords. For me, my guides are saying two things they're saying with this. So there is an element where it will trigger you and you won't know what to do. So it's just confirming that. But they want to play on the fact that it's two swords, two elements, two things that you don't know who to believe. I.e., do I believe this person or that person, or do I choose this one, or do I go back to my past person? They're saying you will be facing this dilemma, and hence why the inner guidance, or the guidance overall, is about really trusting yourself. With the Two of Swords, it's hard because often we don't trust ourselves because we need the evidence to help us. And sometimes from a spiritual perspective, we have to simply go on our gut, not our head, not our heart, you know, deeply from our solar plexus, you know, or that quiet space within, to really trust what we want to do. Even if it means hurting yourself. And what I mean by that is, even if you wanted to be back with your ex, but you just knew in your gut that your ex hadn't changed, that they would only be bad for you. And you know that if you said no to them, it would be really hurtful for you to say no, but you have to let them go so it feels painful. That's what I mean by that, if that's applicable. So just going to get some more about the scenario that's more likely to come up for you. Again, these cards are all really showing about how, I'm looking at the external, and I think it's hard because it's general, and because there's going to be many different ways it can go. The Spirit are really focused on you and how you manage this. They're saying you're going to need inner strength. You're going to have to need inner strength to emotionally make the decision. It's almost like they're saying the universe can't make it for you. Sometimes things are, you know, this is guidance, but sometimes we have to walk through fire and figure out things for ourselves, because it's part of growth. Sometimes people perceive it as being tested. Am I being tested because now the ex-person has come back? Should I say yes or no? This feels very, very much about you. Again, being in your strength. Emperor cards come out, being in your power. You needing to take the control. You needing to almost, again, there's such an element about not really coming from your heart space about the decision that you make, but that you have to be your own counsel. All three of these cards have come out about the internal, emotional and mental struggle, that this beautiful opportunity of somebody coming racing back in and ticks all your wish list brings about you. And I think I want to give you some guidance right now that the fact that Spirit started this to say that this is your wish, that the person that's come in, the first person, not the second person who interferes, is your wish, that your answer lies right there, that you can trust that. No matter what an ex says or what a friend says or what anybody says, if your ex comes back first and nobody agrees with it, if your heart and your inner intuition and guidance saying, no, I need to give this another chance, Spirit is saying they represent a wish. And I think what I'll do, just to double check that in the extension, is to make sure that, just because sometimes people come back, you know, initially, and it is a wish, but does it last that long? We can double check that in the extension. And same with a new person, like, are they really, you know, on the surface a wish come true? Just one more though, just before, if there's any other guidance. Yeah, again, inner feelings. You're going to be terrified about making a wrong decision. You'll be terrified about making a choice, about going back to somebody or taking on somebody new. What happens if they let me down? What happens if, you know, the foundations that I've now built for myself, where it's been, you know, I've been jaded and I've been on my own, but at least I'm not in pain, I'm not hurt, I'm not disappointed. What happens if that all happens again? In fact, let me have a look at this. I'm sure there's three major arcanas. 3 major arcanas have come out, all relating to the impact on you psychologically. But also, for me, this is a life changing decision. I feel very, very much that this is something that is divine growth. And again, my guides want to say, you know, start of a new cycle with a soulmate. Whatever decision you make, you know, I guess what we can also look at is if you choose not to, if you do give in to that energy, how does that impact you? You know, what next? Because it feels like a major life decision. So on that note, if you want to join me in the extension where we can look to see whether you can trust whether that wish is true, trust to see whether if you don't make that choice, is there another, you know, wish fulfilling person coming in, then we'll have a look at that in the extension. And I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Take care.